So welcome back to my channel. This is GamerDom, and it's been a while since I did an update on my Hungarian project. That's because it's pretty much finished. I did try and record something a week or so ago when I was sort of halfway through, but managed to cock up the recording. Don't tell anyone. So I just thought I'd give you a quick insight into how it's come up. So based it around the Budapest book, Fortress Budapest, and so everything is sort of late war, mixed bag of uniforms and kit and all that kind of stuff, which is kind of what I imagine they would have had. And I based them all on these really good, I showed them before on the channel, rubble bases from Pocket Scenics. Really impressed with them. In fact, I used a load and then bought a whole load more. So yeah, really pleased with how these guys have come out. So this is the first lot of riflemen, a real mixed bag of Warlord plastics, Warlord metals. There's also some Great Escape Games figures in my collection, and what else? Basically anything that looks suitable, really, I put together. So there's the first squad. Really pleased how these guys have come out. You can see the rubble bases. Let's just pick this one up a bit closer. There you go. Can you see that? That's the sort of bricks and what have you on this one. Nice figure. This is one of the plastic, one of the metal Hungarian figures with the putties on the leggings. There's another one there. That's from the same pack, I think, if I remember rightly. And I bought these, I told this story before, just shows my complete lack of willpower. I ordered, or placed an order for Kickstarter project of Hungarians, because I really fancied doing them, and I'm still waiting. They still haven't been produced. They're being very slow. And meantime, I saw Warlords were doing a sale over the summer, selling off some of their box sets, and I thought, right, I'll have some of those. So I bought 2 packs of the infantry and 2 packs of the paratroopers, and then from other suppliers bought various other bits and bobs just to make it up. So suddenly I've got a Hungarian army. So that's the first lot. So here's another load of riflemen. This is the other section. What I've got, about 28, about 35, 36 figures with rifles, so that's plenty of variation for the squads, I think. Yeah, said before, a real mixed bag of plastics and metals. Also a few other figures in here. So this was, I think I showed this before, this was from the Polish Uprising set that another Kickstarter did, and I just thought he was a great figure to put it. One of the units you can use in the Hungarian army is a sort of it's called oh god, what's it called? Sort of old men and boys mixed bag of unit. And I thought, well, to symbolise that one, if I get 1 or 2, I was hoping to get a couple more sort of young kid figures. I thought, well, I can put this figure in a unit to symbolise that that's that particular unit. It makes it easier to show. There's a couple there with Panzerfaust, you can see. Again, all on these fantastic rubble bases from Pocket Scenics. So next up, some LMG support for the squads. So obviously these 4 here. You can see that these 2 are from the Hungarian Warlord plastic metal sets, and these are actually I think they're actually, well, these ones certainly are no, hang on, these ones are Africa core figures, but I quite like the sort of billowy uniform of them for later war Hungarians, because looking at some of the images I've seen, a lot of the Hungarian troops in that last few years of the war, few months of the war, were kind of, you know, it was quite cold in that part of the world at that time when the Battle of Budapest was happening, and they had a lot of padding, shall we say, or they certainly looked like they did. So I quite like the look of them, and it sort of worked okay. Now this guy, this was one of the pill-shaped bases that Pocket Scenics did. I I think the guy's Mark there at Pocket Scenics. I was talking to him via Facebook when I ordered the round bases, and I said, have you got any pill-shaped ones? And he said, no, we don't do them. Just the small, I think they do 20mm, 25mm and 60mm round bases. And I said, well, you know, for things like prone figures, having pill-shaped and for that sort of thing will be really, really useful, and particularly if the rumoured Stalingrad book comes out, it'll be really useful to have. So he produced these, and I'm quite pleased with them, actually. The only problem with, because they're fairly raised, it's very difficult to lay the figure down, so I've had to sort of glue him down and then stuff bits of rock and stuff underneath him, just so that he's not sort of levitating in places. But I think the effect's okay. Reasonably happy with how that came out. Talking of that, I mean, all these figures, to stick them down on these bases has been a right project. So I had to cut them off their pudding bases first of all, which is pretty easy with the plastic figures, but not so easy with the metal ones. So I bought one of these things for that. This is a hobby saw, basically. Fine curve razor saw. Look at that beastie. And just literally use it to cut through the bases. Now, for individual figures, through underneath their feet, it's relatively quick and easy to do that with a fine blade like that. When you come to, let me find one of them here, figures that are kneeling down or laying down, it's a right biatch. I'll show you in a minute, but that's a really hard job to cut through. But you need to do it to then stick them down onto these bases, and I think if you didn't, the effect wouldn't work so well. So, you know, obviously just then super glue them down, and they should hold pretty well, hopefully. So yeah, that was part of the joy, getting yourself a little hobby saw, which is kind of useful. I guess I could have used any kind of metal saw, but just so happened the one I have in my shed was blunt, so I bought this thing. It was only a few quid, so that's pretty good. So next up, some of the sort of NCO and officer type figures. These guys are all SMG armed, basically from the Warlords packs. Quite like them. They're pretty good, I think, as models. They come out quite well. So pleased with that. Particularly like this guy. Don't know what he's doing. He's doing some sort of Russian Cossack dance, but yeah. Again, he was one of the ones that's challenging to cut through because he's kneeling down. You had to cut right underneath that long leg there, and it was quite difficult without cutting into the model. These three figures, yeah, this figure here, that was from the Warlords kit. He'll be one of the lieutenants, I guess. Could even be a senior officer. Liked him. These two here are from that Polish uprising set I was talking about from Kickstarter. I think this is actually supposed to be a woman, but I just thought they just added a bit of variety, and there are a couple of militia type formations in the Hungarian army, so I thought army list, so I thought they'd give us a few options for that list. So again, quite happy with how those have turned out. So some more support weaponry, anti-tank rifle and support man here. Again, I think that was from the Africa Corps kit. The three gun crew men, these are Great Escape games, I think, for when I can always use my German anti-tank guns and things like that for this Hungarian force. They're exactly the same. I've got this flamethrower team. This is again from that Polish uprising set. Just really like the figure, and I just thought sort of just a bit of variety, something different. So it's a two-man crew, obviously, two-man team. Sniper group. This is Great Escape Games, really liked him. I might do a bit more work on that cape that he's got there. It hasn't kind of come out how I really wanted, but yeah, it's okay. Medic. And this thing here, whoops, is the rocket launcher that the Hungarians can have. So they can have, it plays like a bazooka, basically. So you can either fire HE or armor-piercing shells out of it. It's two-man crew. Again, use for the pudding pill-shaped base that I really wanted to make the most of. So those are the support weaponry. So I think these were some of the hardest to prepare. Talking about difficult to cut through the bases, particularly the machine gun crew. So these guys, these are from the Warlords Hungarian support pack. But because these guys were laying down, you had to cut through so much metal and then stick them down on these 60mm bases. And because, again, they don't sit flush, had to sort of fill them with polyfiller and other bits of gravel and stuff just to make the effect work quite well. So there's the medium machine gun and crew, also medium mortar with a spotter. I think, again, they'll work fine, and you can see again the variety of paint jobs I've tried to do with these figures. So they've got a mixed bag of Hungarian, German and Russian type uniforms. Because again, if you look at the footage or the images you can see from this campaign, you know, they basically wore whatever they could get their hands on, right? It wasn't a beauty parade. So yeah, really pleased again how these have come out, particularly the mortar. I think the mortar works really well. So more heavy weapon support. So more support here in the form of Hungarian paratroopers from the Warlords metal paratrooper kit. 20 men, 2 LMG teams using this bizarre method. I mean, I know you see this on footage of, well, I've seen pictures of people firing or appearing to be set up to fire a machine gun like that, LMG like that, but bloody hell, you can imagine the noise and the heat for the poor guy with that on his shoulder. I'm not sure how practical that really was. Anyway, there's 20 men there, I believe. A mixed bag of SMG and rifle guys, some Panzerfausts, and it basically, getting 2 kits allows me to have interchange as many riflemen as I want, or SMG men as I want, because in reality is I probably would only use 1 squad in any army I would use, but it gives a bit more variety. And unlike the other guys, I've paratroopers were elites, tended to be the best of the best, and consequently, if there was equipment going, paratroopers tend to get it over normal squaddies. So rather than with the other guys who I've had a real mixed bag of uniforms, these guys have gone with a fairly standardised camo smock type approach, just to give them that uniformity and make them stand out as being elites. And probably will use them as veteran in the list. I don't think you have to use them as veteran in the list, but probably will do. So that's the sort of more elite formation for the army. So more militia type figures this time. Part of the list you can have, I think it's is it blue arrows or green arrows? I forget. Haven't got the army list with me. Should have read it before I did this video. Anyway, but you can have these sort of militia formations. You can also have border guards. So I looked around for sort of suitable militia type figures, and I may well get some more as time goes by and if I tend to use the formations. But again, these are from the Polish uprising figures that I mentioned before. If you look closely, they've got a couple of them have got Sten guns, so it isn't really quite right for this this particular army, but I just thought they were such good figures. I thought, screw it, I'm going to use them, particularly like this guy with his Molotov. I think it's a really nice figure. And you can see, oh, not that one, there we go, on this one you can see I put armbands on them with the green Hungarian cross on them, just to make them stand out as being, you know, sort of paramilitary type formations. So not sure how much I'll use of these, but even if I just intersperse a couple of these figures into a normal Hungarian squad, it will just make it easy for me and my opponent to see that the fact they're different, they're militia or they're some sort of formation, border guards, whatever it may be. And that's the idea, really, to have something just to make it easier for all of us to tell what they're supposed to be. So finally, armour support. Got to have some vehicles and armour with every army, obviously. Don't have to, but just, you know, what's the fun if you don't? So that's a Toldi, which is a Hungarian light tank, and this is a Turan, a Hungarian medium tank. Both of them are 3D printed models from Paint and Glue Miniatures, shown many of his vehicles in the past. Really like them. They're cheap. I mean, you know, they're really cheap. They're not bad models. I think this Turan is a bit more, not quite as, I don't quite like it as much as even this guy, but it's not really the model's fault, it's more just the vehicle is a bit boring, whereas this guy is, I think it's quite a nice little tank. This thing can be a recce light tank, which is kind of effective because most recce vehicles are open top. This thing is clearly a tank and therefore it is not open topped, so that's kind of appeals to me. Only about 70 points or something, so kind of like those options. Of course, the other recce option in the Hungarian list is this thing. This is a 39M Sazba armoured car. Again, not open topped, which is great. Does have a recce, and as a regular you can get it for 85 points, which I think is not bad value. It only has a light anti-tank gun in the turret, but that's fine for taking out armoured cars and trucks and things like that, and then obviously it has a medium machine gun alongside that, which is probably the more useful weapon. But being recce, being cheap, could be a nice little addition to the armour. Just noticed that gun looks a bit bent. Oh well, here we go. This is a Warlord's resin kit. Yeah, nice little model. Not complicated to put together because it's resin. You just had to stick down the wire thing. I don't know what this is. Radio, I guess it is radio around the outside, and stick the barrels on the turret and paint it up. Oh, I think the wheels obviously had to be stuck down as well, but it's come out okay. Quite pleased. So also truck. Need a truck for your list, obviously, for possibilities of outflank units and that sort of thing. So again, this is another 3D printed Paint and Glue model. Again, quite happy how this came out. I did a little bit of weathering using the weathering powders that I've shown, the Tamiya weathering powders, to sort of symbolise rust and mud and what have you down the outside. Used a couple of stickers from some of the other kits I got. Oops, a bit of fluff there. To stick on this thing, and it's come out okay. Quite pleased with how it's come out. And you know, it's cheap, £7 or something for a truck. That's authentic, it's Hungarian, so you know it fits with the list. So finally, assault gun. So this thing, I don't know how authentic it really is. I think as far as I've read, it was sort of it never really saw production. Sort of more of a prototype vehicle, bit like a Stug or what's the Semavine, is it, the Italian assault gun, that kind of thing. Lots of thick armour. In the rules, I think it's level 9 frontal armour, has a heavy howitzer gun on it, and you can also fit a medium machine gun. It has a crew mounted medium machine gun, but it can also have another run additionally mounted, which is what I've symbolised here by just gluing a spare LMG on the top. So quite pleased again how this thing's worked out. Again, 3D printed. This is another one from Paint and Glue Miniatures, and yeah, weathered it, used the sort of Hungarian late war camo, and then just try to weather it with some of those Tamiya powders, and I'm quite pleased how this one has come out. Not bad at all. You can always tell with 3Ds, they've got all the sort of no matter how much you try and prepare them, you know, I've tried in the past to sand them down, but you still see the little build-up lines where the layers of print have been built up. But you know, I think for a tabletop game figure, this cost I think £9, I think it was. You know, even if I only use it once or twice, that's been worth it, rather than spending 25 quid for a Warlord's kit or a Rubicon kit that's A, fiddly to put together, and I'm not a modeler, I'm a gamer. Then to you know, assemble that, make it look right, and then pay that kind of money for probably rarely using it. I didn't see the point, so quite happy with this thing. I think it looks really good. And it'll be a really good focal point for any future armies I put together. A couple of the list variants I've come together have this at its focal point. and you know, it's quite effective, I think, in terms of bolt action. Level 9 armor with a big heavy howitzer on the front, you've got to respect that. So there you go. So there you go. That's pretty much done with my Hungarians. I think I'm planning to get a L3 Italian light tankette, because you can have them in the list as well. And I may just add in 1 or 2 other little figures if I can find some sort of partisan-y type figures, or suitable figures to play as the paramilitary formations that are possible in the list. I may just add a few more of those in, but pretty much I'm saying my Hungarian formation is done. Of course, now the Kickstarter set will arrive and I'll have a whole load more to do, but then I may well just paint them up as an earlier war variant, and keep these for the later war. So we'll see. Also, I did see that somebody else is going to be doing a Kickstarter Hungarian cavalry formation, so of course I'll have to get those as well. But again, I think they'll be in keeping with the sort of earlier 1942 type variant of the army, because yeah, it wouldn't really be in keeping with the Hungarian last-ditch battles at Budapest. Most of the cavalry, I think, were pretty much dismounted as infantry by that point, so having mounted figures is pretty pointless. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this look at my figures, my army list. I'm really quite pleased. I think some of them are some of the best jobs I've done in terms of painting, and I think the bases set them off beautifully. I think I think that it's true. Practice makes perfect, and the more you paint, the more you work at figures, the better you get. No surprise there. Also, I think for the first time I used contrast paint. Thank you to Seventh Son. If you haven't seen his videos, check them out. Really good painter. Well, you know, again, maybe a really good painter. He's a good, strong painter. He's not as good as some of the guys that I follow on the channel in terms of just sheer works of art for their figures. But I would say Seventh Son is very much like me in terms of just doing a nice wargame standard figure, which is what I try to achieve, just so I kind of feel happy about them being on the table. He does the same, but he did a whole series of videos where he was using the new fad in wargaming, the contrast paints, and I'd always thought that was such a fad, but he got me by saying it was the easiest way, or the best way he'd found, to paint horses, and I hate painting horses. I thought, sod it, I'll get some just to try it out. So I ordered some, and they're just so damn good. Yeah, just so good. So blast you, Seventh Son, because I've now bought a whole load more, and they're not cheap paints. They're really not cheap. I know somebody will say in the chat it's very easy to make your own, and it probably is, but I'm lazy and I don't really have much capability like that. But you know, they just are so much easier. I painted most of these paratroopers. In fact, the trousers here are using I think, is it Militaria Creed or something? They have all these weird fantasy names, the contrast paints, but I used one of the green camo colours to basically do the base colour on these things, and you can see it's come out really nicely. And by the time you've used some washes on them and then varnish them, the brightness of these contrast paints really settles down nicely. I think the skin tones, the base skin tones, I used to contrast paint on those, and then just highlighted lightly with a more normal acrylic flesh tone. And the Imperium Black, I think it's called, for the contrast paints. I just love painting boots and things like that. Really good. The coverage with them is fantastic, and yeah. So thanks for that one, Seventh Son. You've cost me a fortune, but actually helped an awful lot. So I've really enjoyed painting, and some of these paint jobs I've done here, I genuinely think they're the best paint jobs I've done. You know, of all my figures, and really satisfied with them. So hope you like that quick look. Well, probably wasn't that quick by the time I've waffled on, but that's my Hungarians done. So just probably add a few little bits and bobs here around the edges, and but pretty much that's that project done. I'm away for a few days. up in glorious Shropshire. Really looking forward to getting a bit of history in, but also just relax and rewind and spend some time with the missus. So I won't be doing any games for a little while, but when I'm back, hopefully I'll get a chance to put these guys in the field and also show some of the other projects I'm working on. I'm hoping the Black Seas rules will turn up. I've got a number of ships that I've got from War Games Illustrated magazines, which I've been working on, which I'm kind of enjoying. They're a bit fiddly, but you know, it is what it is. Really enjoying that, looking forward to those rules. Also carrying on with the black powder and the bolt action and the sharps practice. So lots of exciting things going on in my wargaming world. I hope you're doing well, hope your games are going well, hope your projects are going well, and enjoy whatever you're doing, and I'll see you soon. This is Dom signing out.